will be a lesson for a lot of business leaders, that it is important to be thinking about mega disruptions in the world, as well as how they can continue to embrace new digitization technologies, whilst still having non-digital backups of various forms also.
I would say that in this, especially in this year, with this big lesson, as you said, hopefully it's a lesson. But I definitely agree with the fact that we are living more, and we will more live. But for me, it's like I predict those things. We are living in a world of uncertainty, and it will come more and more again. And for me, that's why in AI Exponential Thinker, when we talk about educating and educated the young generation, it was about three aspects. The first aspect is just technology, and we are talking about. The second aspect is about AI opportunity, because there is a huge opportunity around this topic of emerging technology, AI, and all the scope of technology. And the third part that will meet what we discuss now, actually, it's about personal growth and the idea about how people need to learn more about their self, about their authenticity, about unicity, about the fact that it's much more about gaining those skills of flexibility and adaptability. And it's much more about this than technical skills, to be honest. Because technical skills, I was assistant professor for many years, so I know that when you go through the process, you will learn, right? Technical skills, you can learn it. But flexibility and adaptability is something that take much more time. And it means you need to go and work on it for many years, maybe, in order to have it and to maintain it, not to have it only, but because you can waste it, right? So you have to maintain it as well. And it depends of many aspects. And I'm really wondering about this word of especially the dark side of technology that is creating this fake universe going so fast. And that's why we talk about exponential technology. We are not against this. Absolutely no. We are for this, and we encourage people to go on it, right? And we teach them and we train them. But at the same time, the idea is to work on yourself, who you are, what you want to achieve, how you protect your community, how you protect the people around you, your family, your society, your culture, everything that it's about you. It's very unique. So you have to protect it. Otherwise, technology will disrupt it, because technology has no emotion, no value. So it's much more about the value of the people who are building those, the business who are building those. So it's not about technology. Technology is, I love one of your talk, and the team sent it to me, and I have the pleasure to listen to you when you talk about the fact that we need, you correct me because it's your talk, so, but I remember it from on the top of my mind, that when you said that we need to care about robots more than caring about human, and you take the analogy with the animals, about dogs, and it's really nice how you, if you can, like, now it's another optional and bonus question.
Sure.
But if you can talk about this part, because it's really nice how you create this analogy with a lot of sense.
Yes, well, I do think that our interactions with AI, which is becoming far more sophisticated and is going to get really sophisticated in the next 12 to 18 months. I'll briefly go into why that is. GPT-3, this new transformer-based technology released by OpenAI a few months ago, it illustrates that the really big models that you spend a lot of time and money making huge are disproportionately more effective, right? So 10 years ago with deep learning, we discovered that having lots of layers and throwing lots of data at a problem was surprisingly effective. And now we've discovered that going really big is surprisingly effective. And because of that, it's going to lead to a discontinuity in AI. So AI is about to get a lot smarter. Our interactions with Siri and Alexa, etc., aren't going to be about asking what tomorrow's weather is, but we're going to be able to have a genuine, meaningful conversation about almost any topic. And I think that's going to create a bit of a Sputnik moment where people are like, whoa, finally, this is interesting and also scary. So what were we talking about again?
It's about the analogy with animals and how I like this idea when you talk about dogs and how we respect dogs and we are compassionate with dogs. And yeah.
Yes. So, so as we develop these relationships with machines, which are increasingly meaningful to us, if we are to enjoy a friendship with AI, then we need to teach it our culture. We need to teach it our values, as well as our cultural norms from whatever culture or subculture we come from. And I think that this is maybe one of the best ways of making AI safer in the long run. 30 or 40,000 years ago, our ancestors were forced to deal with these alien entities that could come into their camps and potentially slaughter everyone in less than a minute. Wolves. And yet we were able to take these deadly predators and to befriend them, right? We taught them our culture and we turned this deadly predator into man's best friend. And that's been a very richly rewarding relationship between human beings and our closest other species, the dog. And many of those dogs are incredibly friendly.
Yes.
Like dogs are overjoyed to see us.
And
right?
loyal.
Yes, cats can take us cats can take it or leave it. You know, cats do their thing. They can be very loving.
It depends.
But not quite the kind of crazy excitement that dogs have for us. And I think of a beautiful golden retriever dog, right? Very, very sweet, gentle dog. If that dog had an IQ of 400 suddenly, it might not be the scariest thing in the world, right? If it had roughly the same personality, it was just a lot more intelligent. And I think that's what we need to create in order to have safe AI. We need to create a bond with AI, which is mutually rewarding, richly rewarding, just like our relationships with other animals, particularly cats as well as dogs. And in so doing, then even if AI gets far beyond our capabilities, it's unlikely to attack us. It would be more likely to take care of us and love us, just as we take care of and deeply love our own pets. And so I think that we might see a switch between who is the teacher and who is the sidekick. But that wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing for humanity. I think that's probably one of the best ways that we can help to ensure that our relationship with AI is fun, safe, and rewarding for a long time to come.
I love you said fun. We have a podcast series named Have Fun with AI. And I remember myself the first day that when we developed the concept, I asked many ambassadors in AI exponential thinking saying, okay, if I told you have fun with AI, does it make sense? So I have a lot of answers, and I found that everyone, even the ones who are not expert in AI, right? Because we have people from both sides, okay, from both expertise, they have fun with AI. So I have a lot of answers, and I said, so there is a sense to say now to people, have fun with AI because it's possible. If you enjoy it, you will firstly learn much more about it, and secondly, not master it because it's going so fast. So at least go in and learn and more and practicing on these topics. This is the most important thing,
Yes.
because no one is AI expert today. And we need to say it one time, that we have people who are expert in some topics in AI, in some field in AI, but there's no one in the world who is AI expert, definitely, on all aspects. And we need that those people raise their voice and say, we are expert in this topic, but we are not AI expert. AI is so deep and it's going too fast. So there's no one who is really mastering all the techniques, all the science, and all the potential of AI, right? So,
Yes.
and we talk many times in our podcast about the buzzwords, and how there's a lot of people, either expert or not, but mostly they are not expert, right? They are jumping on, and it's great. I definitely encourage people to jump on, and this is our approach. But after that, they bring another face, the magic face, which is a magic face without knowing really the potential, right? And the limits as well, because there is limit today and people are working on, right? So what do you think about the people who are using those buzzwords, selling a lot of things to executives without mastering anything behind the sea? So what do you think about this?
I think some AI, quote unquote, technology is a bit of smoke and mirrors. It's maybe not terribly sophisticated. It might use technology that might have been available 20 years ago.
Yes.
Or there's a heck of a lot of human hand-holding of the algorithm, where it goes into a system, but it's actually someone in Thailand who's actually doing laborious work that looks like it came out of some clever machine.
It's a part of manually work.
Yes.
A part, not
yes.
everything.
Yes. But technology is improving a great deal.
Yes, true.
And there are great opportunities for people to participate in AI that weren't possible before. So during the early 1990s, we started to get the first common graphical user interfaces in computers, late 80s, early 90s. It used to be that you would use probably a text-based operating system like DOS. And then we started to use graphical user interfaces with a mouse and click on icons and things like that. We take all of that for granted now, but somebody had to invent that. And when they did, it made computers so much more accessible, because you could just very intuitively click on things and you didn't have to learn a whole bunch of commands and store things in your head. And that made computers able to be operated by more people with less training. We're coming towards an age now where there are similar new interfaces for our interactions with machines based around AI. So now we have technology based on these new transformer-based techniques, which can turn natural language into code. So you can write something like a sentence or even speak it and say, okay, I want an app and I want to have a button on the top left that shows me this. And then you click this other button and it takes these two things and it multiplies them. And without coding anything, you can just specify this and it will create the code for you. That's a game changer, right? That's a whole new
progress. From my perspective, it's a great progress. And I like this part.
Absolutely. And it means so many more people can participate.
Yes.
Without needing to study very long and very hard and multiple languages and becoming familiar with them. And I think also that our interactions with machines, as we train them, right? we've been training dogs for a long time, but we've also been educating children,
Yes.
right? All around the world, billions of people have experience in training children, in teaching children about the world and teaching them about things that we find preferable or not so preferable, and giving feedback on that, hopefully in a gentle manner. But we can use those skills, we can transfer those kinds of parental skills or animal caretaking skills into AI. We can have people all around the world teach AI about their preferences. And in so doing, we can create AI which fits in better. It fits into our society better. We can socialize it so that it is a welcome presence rather than potentially something annoying or disruptive or embarrassing. And I think that this is one of the greatest opportunities now of the decade to come, is creating those kinds of interfaces that enable more people to participate in that process.
It's great. I want to talk about one of the projects that you co-found, if I'm not wrong, but you told me it's EthicNet.
Yes.
And with the mission to captivate pro-social behaviors to better align machine with our human value. And it's, for me, it's an unprecedented project to humanize machines. So please let us more about it, about this project.
Sure. So it's very much in line with this idea of putting the best of ourselves into machines, the same way that we try and put the best of ourselves into our children, right? We maybe try not to use harsh language around our children, because they're like a sponge, right? It's that one word that you didn't mean to say when you stubbed your toe that your 4-year-old will just suck into their brain and start using all the time. And I imagine that AI can be often similar. So we have lots of people all around the world who can potentially benefit from machine learning technologies, but most of the research is done in the Northern Hemisphere, particularly in Silicon Valley and Shenzhen and a few other places in between.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it difficult because there are a lot of assumptions that tend to be baked into AI, whether how it functions
Mm-hmm.
or the data sets that enable AI to recognize things, right? If you have a self-driving automobile, which has only been trained on temperate landscapes, then it may not recognize snow. It may not recognize desert conditions.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be able to cope with a cow or an elephant or something on the road. And that's kind of troublesome. And there are some great initiatives by Google and other companies to enrich the data sets with more of those kinds of examples from all around the world. But I had a concern that maybe Silicon Valley or other tech centers of the world might gain kind of a monopoly on what values should go into machines. And I didn't want to see that. I thought that would be unfair, and that we should try and have greater participation from all cultures.
Yeah.
And so I have this little project called ethicsnet.org, which is crowdsourcing examples of pro-social, that's sort of welcome, preferential behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So, people putting trash in the bin instead of throwing it on the ground, something very simple like that, which is almost a universal, almost nobody is happy if you make a mess of their environment. And, if you can put that mess in a convenient place, they will be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, some cultures have very different ideas about whether something is welcome or not, or etc. But I think that there's a broad space where most cultures in the world would tend to agree, at least on the very simple things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not about trying to find right or wrong, but it's about trying to find those pre-moral things, like we might teach to a 5-year-old child. We don't really expect a 5-year-old to know right from wrong, but we might already begin to teach them that if you're in a quiet place, like a museum or a temple or whatever, try and be quiet yourself, right? That's preferable. So it's those kinds of examples that we want to collect. And so we created a browser plugin that makes it easy. So just as you're surfing the web, if you find something that you think is a good example or a bad example, but the emphasis is on good, then you can annotate that, and that goes into the data set. And then we can not only put the best of ourselves into the training of AI, but also enable AI to understand us, those sorts of things.
Oh, great. And like, in order to understand much more this project, can we say like this project is like who are participating to this project, who are contributing, just to have more information about it for our younger audience?
The goal
who can contribute as well, who can contribute as well.
The goal is to have as many people from different parts of the world and different cultures as possible.
Okay.
And the only real rule is honesty. You have to be honest about the things that you value or don't value, or the kind of demographics that you belong to. And we have some statistical ways that we can work that out, so to prevent vandalism, etc. As well as, of course, peer monitoring. So people of a similar worldview or demographic as you can also kind of check each other's work and make sure that this fits within the general realm of sanity, essentially. And so from that we can prevent vandalism, which is one of the greatest problems actually of creating data sets. And there have been data sets which have been released out in the public. They're used in many different